everyone, this episode is sponsored by Fight Energy. Fight is your all-in-one go-to health drink. Fight is not only just an energy booster, it is a mood booster as well. So with your daily dose of vitamins, nootropics, 0 calories, it is your all-in-one health drink. I drink Fight every day. My clients drink it. Someone you probably know drinks it. And you guys, what I'm offering for as we get into 2025, we're doing a discount for 25% off your first order if you type in LYB. Okay, so we'll know that you came from the podcast, and that way we can make sure you get some Fight Energy and some other little goodies thrown in there too. So if you get a chance, we would love to know which team you are. Are you team strawberry? Are you team blueberry? Hey everyone, welcome to the LYB podcast. On today's episode, we have Miss Danielle Onteveros, who is the owner and founder of Grab the Gold Bars. So yeah, what's up? I know everyone's like, oh my gosh, you're gonna have Danielle on, because I was talking about this with some clients, and they're like, the Grab the Gold lady? I'm like, yes, she's the best.
It's not a big deal. I've seen the people that you've interviewed. So.
Oh, whatever. Oh my goodness. No, we've had so many great guests, and it's been really special and awesome. But I've had some guests that I've known for longer that have been friends and stuff. But in terms of in business, I met you guys, I think it was 2017, maybe even before that a little bit. Because when did you start Grab the Gold?
1990.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So yes, when I meet people, I started my business before they were born.
Right. Yeah.
So that's it's an accomplishment, but it also makes me feel old. But at the same time, you feel how you feel. A lot of people don't feel their age. So
yeah, no, exactly. And you look great. I was gonna say that when you walked in, I haven't seen you since the expo.
Yes.
And we pretty much see each other I'd say 3 times a year, in person. But I'm always talking to your marketing team, and you're always sponsoring my challenges. And so right now we have the Fight for What You Want challenge.
Yes.
So which is it's always so great because again, you guys ship everywhere. So my clients and people who aren't local, you send them Grab the Gold Bars, and then they feel like, oh, I won something, I feel successful. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And I love that.
You got to grab the gold to win.
Exactly. Yes. So tell me, how did this, because again, honestly, I really feel like we hit the ground running because it was 2017 for me, and I was trying to put my Find Your Fit Festival on in the course of 3 months. Okay. So it was literally I just started my business. I'm like, let's get in it, doing this first ever event. And I remember, I guess, I feel like I had seen y'all's bars and maybe it was I don't know if it was in grocery stores at the time, maybe Whole Foods, or it was somewhere. And I was like, these are awesome. I love this. And I don't know if that was how we met through social media. Do you know? Do you remember?
I don't really recall the origin of how we met. But I remember the first time I saw you, I was like, you're my spirit animal. Yes. Okay. So I love the way you are, your personality, but I love how free you are and how you express yourself. And to me, I feel like I'm outgoing, and I feel like I'm not concerned about judgment. I feel confident. I'm a confident person.
Yeah.
But you take that to a whole nother level.
Well, thank you.
Yeah, I admire what you do, and I have more questions for you. So.
Yeah. Oh, we have a bunch of stuff. I told them, I was like, I can't wait. I have to ask her everything. Because we don't ever get time, especially as entrepreneurs and especially as women in business, to sit down and actually have conversations. And so that's what I love about, the LYB podcast, that we get to do this. So
this is probably my first sit down conversation in months. No.
Right? Seriously.
No, really.
And that's why, I believe in this podcast, because it is such an outlet for me as well.
Yes.
It's therapy for me too. You know what I mean? To get to reminisce, talk about things, future planning, all the stuff, and I get to hear, and learn from other people too. So I definitely want you to tell everyone, you started in 1990. Okay. What was that? What was the vibe? Were you just I'm eating protein bars and they suck and I need something? What happened?
Okay. So what happened? I was 16 years old.
Okay.
I was homeschooled at that time for high school, and I was skipping. I always skip breakfast. My whole entire life I skipped breakfast. And I didn't like Pop-Tarts, waffles, muffins, cereal, none of the typical breakfast foods that you could grab on your way out to school.
Okay.
And I would end up tired, hungry, not being able to think straight, by the time I got to lunch. So fast forward to high school, I'm at home, so it's not a big deal, but I still didn't like breakfast food. And I was like, you know what? My mom would find me things like puff rice cereal bars
Yes.
back in 1990. There wasn't much.
Right.
Anyway, there wasn't anything that would either keep me full or tasted good.
Okay.
And I was like, I'm going to make something for myself that I will eat in the morning and that will be nutritious and, you know, keep me full until lunch.
Yeah.
So I just had this idea. My mom's only request was don't make a mess in the kitchen.
Okay, yeah.
So I pulled out ingredients that we had in our house, in our kitchen, common ingredients. And I mixed something up and kept tasting it and writing down the recipe. And by that, it was like in the evening. And by that evening, I had a recipe that I thought was good. And then I was like, click, this is delicious.
Yeah.
I'm going to go sell these tomorrow.
What?
Yes. I mean, I was always starting something. Like
Yeah.
I had the entrepreneur spirit. I mean,
Okay.
that's just always what I was doing. So I decided I'm gonna make a business out of this. I mean, it went from I want something to breakfast to I'm going to start a business to my first sale all within 24 hours. I mean, we're a lot alike in that way.
I love that.
You get caught up in this idea and you just make it happen.
Right.
And it just wrapped him up in a picnic basket and walked around because I didn't have a driver's license. I just walked around trying to sell these to people.
So where are you from? Where is this at?
Okay, I'm from Southern California.
Okay.
So outside of Los Angeles area, but I was living in New Orleans at the time.
Okay. So born in like Southern California,
Yeah.
and then you moved to New Orleans when? How old were you?
Like 12.
Okay. Was that just like a family, like your parents' job moved you guys? Or?
My mom just decided that she wanted a change of lifestyle.
Okay. Yeah,
And
California to New Orleans, right? Like
that was a transition. I had a hard time, and that was one of the reasons I was homeschooled because the schools were not as advanced as California.
Yeah.
And also I was being bullied because I had an accent.
okay, gotcha. Yeah.
I mean, and also I was an outsider. It was
Yeah.
a very close-knit community. I don't know. I experienced bullying and I had never experienced that in my life, and it was very hard to deal with.
Okay.
So my grades were coming down. I was struggling
Yeah.
with my self-confidence, with, feeling like, where do I belong,
Right.
And now it's worse. I mean, whole nother subject, but there's cyberbullying where you can't get away from it, at least at school.
Yeah.
Back in the day, when you left school, it stopped.
Yeah, exactly.
So-
you only had to deal with it for 8 hours, and then you're like, I'm going home. I'm going to go play with my best friend down the street. And yeah.
Yes.
So were you only child? Is that where you
I have a sister.
Oh, you have a sister? Okay. Older, younger?
Older sister.
Okay,
yeah.
gotcha. So had your mom, was she like an entrepreneur, or she
Yes, both of my parents.
Okay.
So I knew at the age of 12, I said, I want to be, I didn't know the word entrepreneur. I said, I want to work from home, just like you, Mom. Like,
Okay.
That's what I want to do. And she's like, what are you going to do? I said, I don't know, but it's going to be from home.
Wow.
But what's funny is that was my intention.
Yeah.
But within a number of years, I mean, now like I had like a place to make the bars with sharing space with a baker. And then, I'm fast forwarding, but the point is that working from home was not a thing when then I had my own manufacturing facility.
Yes.
And I'm like, oh, home, what's that?
Yeah,
You know?
exactly.
And I mean, it's interesting because where you think that you're starting and maybe where you think you're going to end up are not always the same thing.
100%. I do believe that, because the thing is, I think where people get caught up in it is when they're talking about manifesting and they're talking about dreaming big, right? They have such a clear, they maybe have this like, it has to happen by this time and this day and like whatever, right? But when you look at it, it never ends up being what you think it's going to be, but it can be that starter. Like,
Yes.
I didn't know that I would get to where I'd be fortunate enough to train people out in the back, right? But I knew at some point, like, I wanted a safe space. I kept saying that. I want a safe space for my clients. And not that the other gyms I trained out of weren't safe spaces, but it was different. You're dealing with other people. You're dealing with other bodies, all these things, right? So it never was that. But and so I really believe in that power of what you say and like speaking it into existence. So I love that.
Yeah.
So when you did, after you're 16. Oh, and I wanted to ask this too. You said homeschooled. So did you use like a Becca do you use? Like, do you
did you
remember?
ask?
A Becca curriculum? Or what kind of curriculum do you remember? Can you
Okay. Yeah. So there was not necessarily a curriculum.
Okay.
My mom was very free spirited, and I think that she got a curriculum.
Okay.
And we got the books
Yeah.
that were on that, but
Yeah.
there wasn't online school at the time. There
Okay.
wasn't, people would get together and meet. I'm just laughing because I am a voracious reader. I am like a self-starter. And when they gave the curriculum, I would just tear, like we get all this textbooks and I just tear through them and start getting more and more books.
Love that.
I mean, my favorite example of being homeschooled with my mom as a free spirit is she said, pick any country. This was like 9th grade freshman.
Yeah.
Pick any country in the world and I want you to do a report on it. And I just randomly picked Denmark. I'm like, Denmark.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay, do a report on it, learn about it. And I just want you, she wasn't big on hand. Like, you don't have to write it out. Just tell it to me. Tell me what you've learned. And so, but I'm not. I'm very structured. And so I read everything about Denmark, studied it. I typed a report. Back in the days, there's typewriters, but it would be equivalent to, to not just, So all she asked for me was for like an oral report. Just talk to me, sit down and talk with me. So I typed out this report and put it in a cover. I also needle pointed a Danish flag.
Oh my goodness.
And figured out how to make a Danish.
Wow.
So, and then she surprised me. She said, well, we're going to take a field trip now to Copenhagen.
Wow.
And so that was like, oh, well, I think I'm going to like homeschooling.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I love that. And so what did your parents do, or what do they do?
My father is a horticulturist, so he was a professor at a college, but also at Cal Polytech, but then he was also landscaper.
Okay, cool.
And had his own business. And then my mom was a public speaker. She traveled around and
I love that.
She traveled all around.
Okay, so the other reason I asked about the homeschooling is because my brother and his wife homeschool their kids and out on their farm in Shelbyville. And then I basically was homeschooled. I went to a private Christian school. And so I was always the only one in my grade. So from like kindergarten to 7th grade, I did that. So I sat in front of a TV, headphones, watched the curriculum being taught by like a teacher teaching the classroom. And then they'd be like, boys and girls at home, what's the answer? And so like that's like how I learned. And so for me, I was kind of the same way where I was like, okay, I want to be as efficient as possible.
Yes.
So I don't need to go over the whole casualties, the small talk that they do. I'm like, fast forward, let's get to the thing, teach me the thing, let me do my quiz. And then there'd be like a real teacher in the classroom. So it'd be like, if I'm in the classroom from it'd be like 2nd to 5th grade in one classroom. So it's like 5 of us, or whatever. And then there'd be like the teacher who would hand out and give you the quiz or give you that stuff. As soon as you were done with the day, I'd have 8 subjects. And like they would say, as soon as you're done and like all your work's checked off for, like you can go outside and play and have recess. So the goal for me was to always go to recess and move my body.
Of course it was.
You know what I mean?
Of course that was your goal.
And like, well, because also too, we could go ride horses. We had piano lessons. We had sign language. Yeah, it was so cool. But yeah, so we would do whatever it's called. We do recess from like 1:30 to 3:30, and we get picked up and whatever. So for me, I'm like, okay, I could sit here, drag it out, whatever, not really pay attention, and then I get like 30 minutes of recess. No, I want like 2 hours. So that's how I operated. So that's how I learned. Really, I mean, even before that, like I was just always. My mom has a thing of me of my schedule of when I was like 6 years old, I think, and I literally was like summer, and it was like from 8 to 8:45 doing this, 8:45 to 9:30 doing that. Like go play outside. Like in the summer and as a child.
Oh,
right.
Wow. Very structured.
Yeah. So that's why when people are always talking about like your scheduling and you're so good at like, whatever, I've always just done that. And I think that the school only helped with that and helped me be self-sufficient in that.
Yes.
And kind of be able to operate on my own. Like here's kind of the outline they want you to do, but like I can make it my own. And so that's what I just love to do. So, but that's why I was like, I can kind of relate on the homeschooling and having that kind of freedom.
Yes.
So let me ask you this. When you were growing up and stuff, like, did you guys have a presence of like health in the house? Like, cause I mean, grab the gold, like, you could have easily made a cookie and been like, I'll eat cookies in the morning. You know what I mean? And like, or like a baked good or something, or a cupcake or whatever.
Sure.
So was there any, you know what I mean? Like,
yes. Yeah. Okay. So coming from Southern California, especially in the 80s when I grew up, it was all about the calorie counting. Like this was the culture. It was probably like Dexatrim, like laxatives, and it was anorexia, and it was all this body dysmorphia going on. Okay. People were counting calories. Weight Watchers was really big, or I don't even know what, because I was a child, but I was aware of everybody counting calories. And there were like places called Skinny Haven. It was a restaurant and everything was labeled with calories. Okay. And, your goal was not to go over a certain, but this was all back in the 80s. Wow. So I grew up with that kind of
Yeah.
it's grilled chicken, it's not fried chicken,
Yes.
that sort of thing.
Okay.
Splurges, like there was a bottom drawer of the house that would have snacks in it, but like
Okay.
it was off limits to me.
Oh,
My
okay.
sister could have them because she was older and she had a higher metabolism, but it was off limits to me. And so it was kind of, I guess, health, but also just restriction. And that's like the questions I have for you. Like, how did you grow up? Because you have so much confidence. And I grew up in like a body shaming environment from an early age and being put on my first diet at 10 years old. And I had this idea as I got older that I was overweight, that I wasn't acceptable, even at 10 years old. And when I look back at pictures, I was like, wait, I was a normal child.
Yeah.
Like a normal looking child, but my mom was anorexic. And and that was just the culture.
Yeah.
And so,
so I grew up in Tennessee. So I grew up in Murfreesboro, which is like 45 minutes down the road, And, for me, like from the age of 3, I started dancing. So movement was always a part of my life. I started competitive dancing at 10. And so when I say like structure, I mean, I would like literally a regular day was school. And then I would do dance team at school from 3:30 to 5:30. Then I would get taken to competition dance 6:15 to 9. And then I'd come home, do homework and get ready for the test the next day at school. Like, you see what I mean? Every day I took every class I possibly could, mainly because my mom traveled a lot with work. And then my dad would work he'd be gone before I would wake up. And then I wouldn't see him, because I'd be like, I would get home. Either he'd pick me up late at night at the dance, classes or whatever. Or like, I just wouldn't see him really, you know what I mean? For a long time because when he was really in his career and stuff. And so for me, I just wanted to stay busy and really not be alone. Right. And when I was little, I didn't mind being alone. I kind of did all that. But when I started getting into like public school, I left Christian school and everything like that. And to go to public school because of kind of what you're talking about, the bullying and things. The Christian school kind of didn't approve of me dancing. And I was like, that's like my God-given ability. Like, I was like, Jesus wants me to dance. And they were like, no, you're going to hell. And again, it's not this isn't like let's shame all Christian schools and all churches. It was just,
that was your experience.
That was the experience. And it was just the one principle. The other people were all amazing. There's teachers that love me. They're like, dance your heart out. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And because again, and I believe it's the intention behind everything you do. If I was dancing because I needed validation, if I was dancing because I wanted people to look at my body, if I was dancing, like
absolutely,
it was, but I'm 10 years old, right? All right. So anyway, so I went to high school at public school, and so things kind of changed, right? So I became more social, and like, well, I guess I was always social, but anyway, the confidence thing, my mom says it started even when I was very little, because I would just run up to a group of like high schoolers. I'd be like 5, and I'd run up and I would give them like Jesus loves you, like pamphlets. And I would talk to them about the Lord. So really, it's no different than now when I go give Love Your Body stickers out to everybody. And I'm like,
it's the same.
You see what I mean?
Absolutely the same.
It's the same thing. I'm just saying you should love your body.
Right.
And then, but anyway. And so it really hasn't changed in that sense. So I would say that I was born with a natural sense of confidence. Now that was God-given. But I only started to lose that when the body shaming kind of came in. And like, I was on diets when I was younger. So I did like drink Slim Fast and then, all the things and whatever. And it was because I got sick and I had this like acid reflux. I would throw up every morning. So the whole thing about not being able to eat in the mornings, totally get it. Right there with you. And what happened was finally my mom was like, we got to take you to the doctor because you're missing school. You're getting like, you're late all the time. Like, and so when I went, they put me on steroids for like several months, and they're like, the weight will come off though. She's active. But I didn't eat properly. Like when you talk about the food stuff, I was eating sugar straight out by the tablespoon.
Yes.
Sugar, like at a young age. And we all thought it was cute, right? My dad, everybody would laugh at it and stuff. And it is a sweet memory. But also then too, I would have 2 liters of soda every day. The only reason that I didn't have diabetes, I feel like, is because I danced. Because literally, and I never drank water with any meal. The only time I drank water was after I danced, which was every day. But I would drink a gallon because I was so thirsty and dehydrated because I was sweating, right? So that really saved me in that respect. But I didn't really learn how to eat until I was in my 20s, and really, and again, trial and error of so many different things. So this is a long-winded answer to tell you that when it comes to the confidence thing, I mean, my dad always, and mom too, like in terms of, they mom just wanted me to be my best. Okay. And then dad would always bring it back to like, okay, look at this jump that you did. Do you think anyone can do this jump in here? You like moments like that. And I'm like,
awesome.
cause I would practice so hard that I take all the classes that I could do. I was the youngest person to ever be on the highest team. I was the first person ever to be allowed to do a solo. Okay. There were so many firsts that I was able to do, but it was because of the hard work. I didn't have the body type, but even before I put on the weight with the steroids and stuff, I still was solid. And I thought I looked great. So I didn't really notice anything was wrong with me until then. It would be like, let's say that you and me go to eat and we've been eating together for years. And then your mom is sitting there and being like, do you really want to get the double cheeseburger? Maybe you should get a salad.
Yes.
And then it's like, and this would be like other people's parents and other people's stuff.
Yes.
And it was one of those of like, oh, well, I mean, like we've always ate the same foot long and the same chips. And so why can she do it, but I can't? So that was never explained to me. And that is where then I started feeling, okay, and kind of my light kind of dimmed. You know what I mean?
Yes,
And,
I do.
That's so rude.
right. Well, yeah, there was like, and again, though,
To do this when I was a child.
all those people like that you, if I have no ill will towards them or anything like that.
Of course.
I genuinely think that they wanted what was best for me because they saw how hard I worked and they were just like, we just want you to be like, be able to be in the front and be in the leading girl in the dance, like all these things. Right. But for me, I was just like, again, dancing was the only place from the age of like about 15 to, or I guess my whole time, but like really from like 14 to 18, I started dealing with the weight stuff of being like, this is where I feel safe. Which is so ironic, right? In front of a
Yes.
mirror.
Right.
Like, but that was the only time I felt that I even looked attractive or looked capable because of what I was doing. The jumps, the flips, the turns, the spins, that. So that is where like movement for me, I can go do a workout and before I do the workout, I can feel like my lowest self, not the best, whatever. The moment I start moving my body, I'm like, look at these muscles, look at this frame, look at this stuff. And that is why for me, movement's always been present. And when it wasn't for a short time and I put on more weight or I got injured or anything like that, I felt just not myself. I knew that my life was not as fulfilling, you know?
Yes.
So yeah, so that, I guess for me, it was more about, in terms of confidence wise, like I just didn't have to worry about not being great because I knew I was great. I knew I did amazing things. I was put on this earth to do these things, but it was only when I started listening to what other people said,
Of course.
then it started changing my narrative. I was like, but I don't feel like that. I feel like I can wear booty shorts and a sports bra around Nashville, which I've done, you know what I mean? Like all day long. And I love that. Like I went to this Halloween festival in Indiana and I wore this outfit that like fishnets, like panty, like, you know, the
I saw it.
And literally, I've never felt more free. In front of all these people that don't know, don't care. And it wasn't like, oh, I can't wait for them to like tell me I look good. I was just like, I feel great. Like I'm having the best time.
Okay, I love it. I saw those pictures and I was like, go girl. Okay, so I'm like, I don't care if that dates me. I'm just like, I'm so excited for you. So this is, okay, so this is where I think it happens. So we have this, you don't fit in. This is what happens. Someone says you don't fit in. You're not, you're different. There's this real kind of, everybody has to be a certain way.
Yes.
And then if you're not, there's this judgment and then there's this exclusion.
Yes.
And then after that, there's a point of decision, what we make of that.
Right.
So, and I think that this is horrible. And it goes for all genders, all people that, okay, you don't look right. You don't act right. You don't have the right clothes. You don't have the right body. You don't have the right anything you want. You don't have the right gender. Someone doesn't approve of you or a group of people doesn't approve of you. That's here. They cast this judgment and then you're excluded.
Yeah.
And it's a feeling that, yes, you don't have to bring it into you, but it does affect you. It keeps affecting you.
Right.
And especially, who is it coming from? Is it coming from your peers? Is it coming from a parent? Is it coming from a spouse or a relationship? And they can be like little subtle comments. They don't have to be something strong. And it just makes you stop and think. Now, I know that there's that point where you have the choice whether to bring it in. But a lot of times we don't process, oh, something was said to me. I don't have to take that in. That doesn't have to affect me. I mean, we just take it in the second and we react, we absorb it.
Right.
But then there's that decision what to do with it. So this is what I find interesting about your story. I had body shaming constantly from my mother. There was nothing about me that was right. And I was like you, very, very confident. And I think it's funny about the Jesus Loves You stickers because I was in a Christian preschool and I remember coming home and I had a little microphone and I told my mom I was going to sing her a song I learned.
Yeah.
And I was singing Jesus Loves You.
Yeah.
And at the end, I was singing it with the microphone and dancing. And then at the end, I spun around and went on my knee and threw my arms up. And she's like, wow. I don't really think that's the way you learned it at school today, but you know,
made it your own.
But I like your style. So I was always very confident like you, but I kept hearing these repetitive messages from my mom. You know, you're not okay. You can't eat this. You can't eat that. You're fat. You know, every single part of my body was ridiculed by my parent, my mom, who I'm supposed to respect. So that went in. But you're saying you also experienced judgments. How did you transform from that point of judgment to, and it's not just, I don't care, because some people can say, I don't care, but it's you're pushing it away and you're acting like you don't care.
Right, you're not dealing with it.
Right, so how did you go from, okay, I'm being judged and it's starting to kind of mess with my confidence or my mind. How do you change that? And not just temporarily, but how did you change it to really feel confident?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and real quick, I will say this, for those who haven't bought on Amazon, my How to Love Your Body Throughout book, please make sure you're going to get a copy today. So, but please make sure you check that out, because we do talk about this, right? So this very thing. So here's the deal. Like it was coming at me from all angles, from parents, from like friends, from everybody, right? Like I couldn't sit here and breathe. Like if I was to eat this Grab the Gold bar, which is, you know, I love these bars. I had one earlier, but like if I was to eat this right now, it was almost like a, do you really need that? Have you know, or like if I'm drinking this water, it's like, so there's always something. So to where I got very nervous about eating in front of anybody. You know what I mean? And I've still dealt with that as an adult, especially with bodybuilding and all those things. And no matter what I ate, but it was like, if you look at a larger size body and you're eating, it's not okay. But you eat the same thing in a smaller body, which I would do, and it was okay.
Sure.
And I hate that, right?
Yes, it's true.
And it is very, so, but from your question that you asked, so there was a specific moment that happened for me. So over the course, I'd say probably like 15 to like 19 years old, I really, like I said, dealt with thinking that every day was pretty much like my version of not the best place, right? Of in my mind, and I didn't know how to be. Like I couldn't just sit here. Like I'd have to be like there have to be a mirror, or I'd have to like kind of look at myself and see. Like I couldn't see how I looked, and then it wasn't until when I would go dance I would like feel free. And so what I did was I went on this like canoe trip, and it was just like for the day with some friends, right? And I was on like a diet and stuff. And it was one of those things where I ended up like passing out because I only was having like 400 calories a day or so. It was, you know, whatever. Wow. And this was one of those things where I finally kind of snapped and told those who were making me feel some type of way. I finally stood up for myself. It took me getting to my lowest point because I realized if I can't move my body because I'm eating like this, I don't want this then. I don't care if I lose all this weight or like whatever. If I can't move my body, then life is not worthy to me. You know what I'm saying? Like then it's not a fulfilled life. And so I got to my lowest point. I kind of yelled and I was just like, I'm done. Like I'm going to go eat Mexican food and I'm going to like, don't ever, and basically put boundaries up and said, don't ever speak to me about my body again. And that was such a, like, I hate that it went down like that. You know, with somebody that I love. But it was the thing that I had to have that barrier and that bridge and just finally be like, I'm going to do this on my own. No more, like, whatever, like, I'll figure it out. Okay. But no one's going to push me. No one's going to push me into this. And so finally, when I had that, it was about 6 months later and I was in college and I was like, you know what? I'm going to like turn the negative into a positive. And I was like, I'm going to start moving my body. And so I auditioned to be a group fitness instructor and auditioned to be on the dance company because I didn't make the dance team for UT. But made the dance company with my friends, started dancing, moving my body again, and feeling fulfilled. Became one of their top instructors they ever had. Taught Move Fit there, but at the time I called it like cardio hip hop or whatever. But like 75 people, my classes were always filled. It was amazing. And then it was like, I think a few months later, I'm sitting there eating. I was working on my dance class. I was working on Move Fit, and I would have a video, my recording on my laptop, and it was videoing me. And I remember looking at it because I would try to remember the moves and everything. Hey everyone, thank you so much for subscribing to the Love Your Body podcast on YouTube, Spotify, wherever you're listening. I appreciate you so much for sharing these stories, listening, and just being a part of the DDF community. If you are interested in any challenges I have coming up, the Get Your Movement In Challenge is launching here soon, so stay tuned for that, as well as online programming. Would love to work with you from all over. And you guys, I'm just so blessed and so thankful for this season of time. Please, if you get a chance to share the mission, rate the podcast, whatever you want to do, comment, let us know what you think about it. We would love the support, and we're always looking for sponsors. So if you're someone that's listening right now and you want to get your business out there as well, we'd love to have you as a sponsor. And so let us know at Danny@DandyFitness.com.
Hi, this is Danielle with Grab the Gold. We make snack bars for your life, everyday life, and supplements to fuel your day. Grab the Gold snack bars come in several flavors. You can find them at grabthegold.com, Amazon, and in your local grocery stores. Just visit our website to learn more.
So I play it back, and I looked at myself and I was like, that's not me. Like, I was like, that's not, I know I can be better than what that person looks like in this video.
And how so? Like, what were you seeing, and what were you thinking that you would change?
So what I saw was just like, I mean, again, I saw only my flaws. Like, I saw my love handles. I saw my legs weren't tight. I saw I didn't look strong. And I was just like, I'm doing these workouts, I'm teaching these classes, I'm in front of people, but I don't feel really good. And also I just ate like a calzone. It was Tuesday at like 9 a.m. You know what I mean? Like, it just didn't make sense. Like, I was like, okay, this isn't like computing. Like, we got to figure out what's missing, because your classes are rocking, but you're not feeling your best. You're getting out of breath from just going from like down, because I lived on 2 stories or whatever, like whatever. And so it was one of those things where I'm like, let's like work with a program. Let's try to figure it out. So I did like Advocare for a little bit, but just like needed a plan. I just needed kind of a template of like, what should I be eating? You know what I mean? And like, how do I do it? I'm in college. I'm like making $9 an hour teaching, $11 when I got certified, right?
That's a big raise.
Yeah, exactly.
It is.
So it's like, that's what and I'm only teaching so many classes. And so again, my parents helped me with college. But it was one of those things of like, I don't know, like, let me try to figure it out. And so I started, making better choices, figuring out my food and everything like that. And that is around the time when I started documenting like every day. But I was like, all right, guys, I'm getting ready to go for a run. Like, and I would take selfies in the mirror, and like, I even to the point where the sorority girls made fun of me, and they called me out actually. And like, excuse me, not me particularly, but they said, selfies aren't cool. So anyone that starts posting them is going to get demerits, like is going to get like written up. And I was like, cool, write me up, because I'm going to keep doing this. And so that's why when people are like, how have you had this confidence, and you take these photos and you do stuff and whatever, I'm like, I've been doing this. You know what I mean? Even since I was young, because I love to document my story. I think what I do is really cool in every aspect. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And even like at that point in that time, and I was like, I just want to share, and it actually held me accountable. And that was the main thing, And so, yeah, so I don't know if that answered your question, but it was one of those where like I had to hit rock bottom, and I had to look at it of, I have to fuel my body. Don't really know what that looks like yet. Gonna figure that out, but movement has to be the priority. And in that sense, because it was my stress reliever, it's what made me feel good. And yeah, so I don't know, it's a lot.
No, okay. So you are all about movement, and you have a background in movement.
Yeah.
I'm the opposite. I'm like a bookworm, and I would rather sit and have a cup of hot tea and read a book and lose myself. Movement has always been the last thing on my list. I've always been like inwardly focused and never a physical person. I remember like as a child, I was always the last person to complete the lap at school. I was always like athletically the very good hand-eye coordination, very strong, but always the slowest.
Yeah.
So for me, that was not like an outlet, but like, so I see you have this moment where you shift and change, but how does it change in your mind? Because there's a lot of self-talk. There's all these, I mean, this goes for everybody in every part of their lives, whether it's confidence, about failure, about doing something like there's a challenge for them.
Yeah.
For me, so when I see you, it's movement. So don't really have rhythm.
Yeah.
But I have confidence, but not confidence to move in front of other people.
Right.
Like,
Okay.
hey, if you want to put some music on in my own house, I'll dance, I'll have fun. I have no idea what I look like because I'm not going to do it in front of a mirror.
Right. So, why is that though? Why don't you want to dance in front of other people?
Because, and it's that thing, that judgment. Like,
Yes.
what do I look like? Why are they judging me?
So this, I think, is going to answer your question.
Yeah.
So for me, from the time before I was 15, before I put on that weight, I didn't care what anyone thought about me. Like, I just was beating my own drum.
It's a free time. I mean, it's really a free childhood.
And then, so for me, when I hit to that point, when I was like 19, where I had that breaking point, where I was like, I was obsessing about what everyone, it was almost like I was choking. That's why I refer to it as. It's like the people had their hands around my throat. I couldn't breathe. I couldn't say anything. Everything was wrong. You know what I mean? All this stuff, to the point where like finally I was like, I can't care. I can't worry about what I look like, and then what you think I look like, and then what I think he thinks I look like, but then what also the guy that I like thinks I look like. Like, it's not a world I wanted to live in, and I wasn't destined to live there. Like, that's why I was like, before all that happened, and I could take it back to that point, I was like, I genuinely didn't care. And so for me, I was like, it's not like I'm trying to get back to my 14-year-old self, but it was that moment of like, let's adopt that mindset again.
Yes.
Of like, that they're really very relevant. What they say, I can't let it, it's almost like I put up this like force field, and I was just like, I don't even care what you say or how you do or whatever, because like, I just don't want to take any more mental space and time, because one, it was exhausting.
Yes, it is.
Right?
It is.
And two, I felt like I was trapped in a box. And so that's why a lot of time I'd say with my mission that like Dandy Fitness is like, the whole mission is to break the stereotype of what healthy and fit look like, right?
Yes.
To break out of that box. Because I do believe you can be my size and do a bodybuilding show. You can go run. You can dance. You can do all these things. And I would say prove that, right? And it's one of those things, like, not that I had to prove, but like just to show people and set the example that no matter what size you are, you can do these things. And so it was really taking that moment to say, I just don't want to waste time and energy on it anymore. And because I've lived it, I've tried it. And this lifestyle, I've tried it. I've really tried to make it work, try to have everybody like me. I threw all the parties. I did all the things, you know what I mean? And, like I talked to the popular boys, like, you do all these things, whatever. And then I lived in the sorority house, but like I wasn't happy. Like, I stopped dancing my whole freshman year and drank with everybody. And like that got me nowhere. Even still then, people would say hurtful things to me and whatever. So it's like, I was kind of like, if people are already going to be how they're going to be, I'm going to do it on my terms, in my way, and live the life that I see, and really started manifesting around that time. And that is where then, like, when you talk to anybody in my past, like if you talk to anybody from college, from my business fraternity, if you talk to anybody from Vermont when I worked at that all women's healthy living resort, I was sitting there telling people my plans. I was like, I don't know what it looks like, but it's going to be big and it's going to be great. And it's going to be something I want to do. And I'm ready for whatever that looks like. And that was what kind of, like it took me getting to the absolute bottom and feeling just like I was meant for better and greater things. I don't know if that was like an angel that came to me. I don't know if that was just God speaking to me that day that I sat there with that calzone. Like, you know what I mean? But literally being like, you're worth more than what you settled for. Let's see what can happen.
Okay, so I've heard this before in other people's stories where they have that turning point.
Yeah.
And it's a complete paradigm shift. It's not just, oh, I'm going to start making better decisions. It's not that. It's just a complete, this isn't me anymore. I don't care, or I'm not going to take it anymore, or this is not the way I'm going to live my life. And there are a lot of people, I think, who are blessed to have that point at which they see clearly, they have a life change, and it just completely transitions, where they're going. What would you say to those people who, some people don't have epiphanies.
Yeah.
For me, I have confidence in other areas of my life. I have
Right.
confidence in business.
Yeah.
I have confidence in like anything having to do with business, mechanics, anything has to do with a skill that's mental, I'll
Yeah,
say.
yeah.
But then when it comes to physical, not so much, because that's just not the realm that I have participated in my whole
Right.
life. So, you know, what I love is when I see someone who is confident. Like nothing makes me happier than when I see someone like just expressing themselves. They're
Yeah.
dancing. They don't care who's watching. They don't know that someone's watching, or they're just being silly, goofy.
Yeah.
So that to me, that full expression of just that joy inside,
Yes.
is like, to me,
What's freedom?
it is. So what do you say to those people who are struggling with, I want that, but they didn't have a change like you did, but like, I want that, but I keep hearing the mental, you know, you can push it aside a moment, like, oh, I don't care, but I kind of do. Or,
Sure.
and it's not so much like they're going to judge me. It's just that feeling of, like, let's say the feeling of embarrassment.
Yeah.
It's not so much that like you care if the person
So-
likes you or not. It's just that feeling of, I don't want to be embarrassed, or
Right. So there's so many layers to this. So the biggest thing I'd say that in short about the epiphany thing is that this was not the first time that I had that moment. Okay. Like let's make that very, very clear on that. Like when I felt like I was at my lowest when I was 17, I got into a dance college in California and my parents were like, no, you can go in state. You know what I mean? And so it's like, okay. So like that was like a dream crusher. Like I wanted to be a background dancer for like Missy Elliott or J-Lo. That was like what I was going to do. Okay.
Wow.
In today's terms, I would have done Meghan Trainor. It would have been great. I could have done that. Like her move, if you watch her backup dancers, it's like move fit. I'm like, come on. Like I could easily jump in. So there's that. But the other part is that, like, so there was that low. There was lows that I had even when I got my license. Like there was so many times that I got to my lowest quote unquote point. So this is the thing is I wasn't, until I was ready to hear it, like I just kept pushing it down and pushing it down and pushing it down. So it wasn't until I decided to change that mindset. You know what I mean? And so when you say epiphany, yes, but it's also like there were several times throughout this hardship that like I could have started, you know, or I could have whatever, but I just was like, nah, I either was complacent or focused on other things and just ignored it. You know what I mean? So it was really facing myself and facing like all of my fears and like asking myself, why do I want to live like this forever? If I keep going down this path, you know? And so I would tell people that I really do think that at some point we all hit those lows, but it's actually listening to yourself in that time and deciding like, how am I going to change? Because there's people who, you've probably seen who just like continually do the same routine every day. They live the mundane, they hate their job, they hate this, whatever, and they don't try to change for the better. And so that is where with like my LYB method, so I have my good fuel, good movement, positivity, right? So, but also that's get your movement in, love your body throughout, fight for what you want. The fight for what you want part of it is goal setting. Okay. So for me, at that point, I was like, I'm going to fight for myself. And when I had the major epiphany that you said, you know what I mean?
Yes.
And that was like the missing point because I have the movement. I'm getting, I'm trying to figure out like the food or whatever. So it's like, okay, but like, how are we going to fight? Right. And I felt like my whole life it's been a fight to just to express to people that you don't have to live the way society has told you that you have to live. You don't have to be in the box that everyone's told you that you have to be in. And it's easier said than done. And you guys listening at home, that's why I created the book. That's why I created Fight. That's why I created these things to help people with tools. Right. And then like obviously going to therapy and things like that, like to help encompass so that I'm my strongest when society kind of creeps in or resentment creeps in or why are they having these all the things that regular people like we deal with. Right. Like I'm not going to say that I don't ever, envy or this or have ego or whatever. Right. That does happen. But yeah, it's just like, I don't know. I don't know if that answered the question, but it's, I don't know.
Yeah. No, I just feel that yes. Okay. So like, I agree with that there's that turning point or that switch that flips.
Yeah.
And, I just feel like if we could game that or we could figure that out because, like you'll be, okay, I need to, I should. And then all of a sudden one day you're like, I'm doing it. There's no going back.
Right.
So I'm like, if we could figure out that switch.
But listen to that though. That power in yourself. You have all the things that you need. It's within you already.
It is.
So it's just quieting, right, the nonsense around you that's coming in your phone, that's coming from maybe a partner that's not the best, that's coming from parents or what, like whoever and whatever it is, quieting that and sitting with where is your power, you know? And that is what most people don't do. And they live in the victim mentality. They live in the negativity. And that's another thing too, that I'll say, that with all of this and where this all stemmed from, if I wouldn't have had, if people would have told me that I was just beautiful and a perfect little snowflake, my entire, like a lot of my friends got, right, growing up, there would have never been this fight for, you know what I mean, for what I want and to be my best. So with struggle, with negativity and all of that does come, you know what I mean, if you choose to lean into it.
Yes.
And so that's why, like, if anyone who's listening, they could say that they're so far away from that or they're so whatever. You're really not. You have the power to choose it. And so I think that also, too, I was going to say about what you're talking about, like about feeling embarrassed or feeling whatever with other people. Here's the thing. All right. Groundbreaking stuff right here. Everyone is going to judge you regardless.
Yes.
So you might as well have fun doing it. Okay. Look, like at the expo that you saw me at this past time, I wanted to wear that outfit. There was a whole story that happened, if you listen to the podcast, of how I had to track down that outfit from the mail lady. Like, it was a whole thing. Okay. So, and it was like, and it was bright and it was whatever. And there was no hiding anything. And my scars, you could see my bumps, you could see everything. And I was like, I'm going to rock it out. Like, we're just going to have the best time. And I got a whole stage and I love to be on a stage and I'm going to do what I love. And regardless if I wear leggings, regardless if I wear the booty shorts, like someone's going to think some way, but I don't have time to care about that. So what I'm going to focus on is how am I going to do the best that I can do? And what that looks like was me wearing my booty shorts and my sports bra running around. You know what I mean?
Yes.
So that is the thing. It's like when you let go of others' perception of you or opinion of you, like, it really is freedom. And this doesn't come without tools and without practice and without looking at yourself in the mirror. I tell this to my clients every day and saying one positive affirmation, you know, and saying, and these things add up over time. And that's why I would take the selfies. That's why I would do those things and it eventually, you know, helped me to where this point now where I can go through all these seasons and all these different things and still find love throughout versus being like, okay, I have to be this weight, this type, and then everything is good. Then I can live my life.
Okay. Yeah. So that's a big thing, deferring.
Yes.
So that's how I lived so long, was in deferment. Okay. When I'm this weight, when I look like this, when I no longer have this issue, you know, as far as like, my body is struggle. I've been from like a size 4 to a size 24. And in my adult life, when I run into someone I haven't seen for a while, I don't know what I looked like the last time I saw them, right?
Yeah.
And so for me, I totally understand these things. And that's why I'm so interested. But for me, that deferment, you know, my mom said, "Oh, your arms are too fat. You should always cover your arms. Your knees are too. Oh, first of all, your thighs are too fat. Now it's your knees. Now it's your calves. Now it's your ankles. So suddenly I'm covering my whole body. Okay, now it's your upper arms. Now it's your elbows. Now it's your wrists. So now I'm covered from head to toe. You know, and don't wear a belt because that makes you look fat.
Right.
You know, basically at one point she told me, "Oh, just wear baggy sweatpants and a men's extra large T-shirt, and that's all that looks good on you. Never wear jeans. Never wear a dress. Never wear a skirt. Never wear shorts. Never wear a bathing suit."
Yeah.
And so basically, I was just told over and over and over to hide my body.
Yeah.
So I thought, okay, at what point am I good enough to show my arms? At what point can I even show my wrists without shame, you know?
Right.
And so I was always deferring my happiness.
Yes.
And it was only a couple of years ago, like in my late 40s, that I was like, you know what? I see people and I find this younger generation is like that. They will wear just whatever.
Yeah.
And it's not for attention. It's just they're fine with their bodies. They're just living their life.
Right.
And I find that amount of confidence or that amount of not caring about what other people think so inspiring. And I was like, you know what? Okay, I'm 50 now. I think I should just go ahead and wear shorts because, you know, I may have looked better in the past, and I didn't capitalize on that.
Yes.
How long has it been since I've worn a bathing suit?
Right.
I haven't worn shorts since my 20s,
Yep.
unless I was exercising. So
Yeah.
it's constantly hiding, deferring. Oh, I can't go canoeing because that means I have to
Yeah.
wear shorts. I
Right.
can't do that because I don't look good enough.
Right.
So suddenly I'm not enjoying my life
Yes.
until I can reach a certain point at which this is acceptable.
And that's the key thought right there. So that's the whole thing too. And I do want to let you know that, again, I'm so sorry that you went through that.
Sure.
But I hear this more than I can count. Like
Yeah.
I've heard this scenario, and I lived it to an extent, right?
Yes.
And it is that constant verbal abuse and things of that nature. And I feel like that comes from projecting from others who weren't happy with themselves.
Yes.
And they can say there was the best intention, that they wanted you to be great. They wanted you to be healthy in their version of what that looked like.
Sure.
Right. So that is where, like, when at the end of the day, it's so challenging, but it's like what you said now that you're like, okay, I'm 50 and stuff like that. But when you look back at photos, there's probably a part of you that's like, why didn't I just wear what I wanted to wear? You know what I mean? Like, and because you look at it now and you're like, man, and you're like, and so what my thing is that no matter what size I am and whatever, I can still find beauty in something about myself, and that I am beautiful in general, and that my worth is not just in that, in that body at that time. I can still do amazing things no matter what size. But the thing is that, like, I don't want to look back at my life and be like, wow, every time you were there, you didn't take photos. You didn't, you didn't wear what you wanted to wear because you were too afraid that they would wear that. Like, and also I will say about that whole Christina Aguilera outfit that I wore, like in Indianapolis or whatever, the reason I did that was, honestly, for me, it was a actual moment of, I had wanted to be her for Halloween for a long time, but someone that I knew always was Christina Aguilera for Halloween, and her body type was a certain way.
Okay.
So she could rock it out. Everyone was like, she's so hot. She's, all these things. And I was like, I don't want to be compared, and I don't even want to put myself in that position. So I delayed dressing up like her for years.
Which would have brought you joy because it's what you wanted to do.
Exactly. But like, because of how I knew that I wasn't able to handle the fact that, like, you know what I mean? Because of other people or whatever, right? And so I made all these excuses. And I was like, well, like maybe when I'm this or that. And then finally I looked at it. And again, I didn't really celebrate. So the year before I was in Universal, and like I totally would have done it, but we were doing stuff anyway. So I didn't have a costume or whatever. But basically I would have done it then. But I was like, I am going to do it. And like, when I have the best intentions, when I'm feeling like my, like, absolute, like, I'm feeling my best, not my looking my best,
Okay,
but
different.
feeling my best. And I have been working with a hormone specialist to get my hormones back regulated after bodybuilding. I've had some health stuff, all the stuff that's happened. And I was just like, the time is now. Like, order it. And like, my best friend, she actually found the outfit online, whatever. And I was like, I'm doing it. And like, who cares? Like, and I didn't feel like, oh, I wish I would have done it sooner or anything like that. No regrets. I was like, I did it when I was supposed to. And I felt my absolute best. And I rocked it out and did not have a care in the world. You know what I mean? And that was such, but everyone else who from the outside probably looked at it as like, oh, like Danny's like, but again, don't care. That's irrelevant. You don't know what that meant to me. Everything that I do, from these photos behind you that you see, from my fight to my LYB gym, everything is purposeful. Everything has an underlying meaning. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like everything. I mean, because like the reason I created Fight was because I had acid reflux growing up, right? So I would drink a soda every morning to kind of cut it, and be able to eat and then go home and go work out or go to school and stuff like that. So that's with like Fight, same type of deal. You know what I mean? So there's always something like that. So that's why it's like, we're so much bigger than just focusing on how I look, and I have to look at this certain way for this certain event, for this whatever. Life doesn't work like that, you guys. There's things that are going to come up. There's health things that are going to happen.
Yes.
So for me, it's like, if I'm healthy enough to go rock that outfit, then we're going to go do it. If I'm healthy enough to go on stage and do Move Fit and whatever, we're doing it. So
That's interesting. I was going to say, it's interesting where you get the messaging from. I know that, and you say like some people are going to respond in different ways. Like, let's say you're feeling confident, and people respond to that. So when you're confident, it brings me joy. When you're expressing yourself, it actually makes me joyful.
Yeah.
And I feel happier. I feel more outgoing. Right. So interesting thing, when I was maybe over 200 pounds. I don't know exactly where. My mom told me, you're so disgusting. I can't even look at you. Right.
yeah.
And this is a woman I admire. I love. I trust.
Oh yeah, she's your superwoman.
Mom. So I was like, okay, how bad does that make me feel? And then, so I lost weight. I lost about 50 pounds. And I was showing my before and after picture to one of my friends. And her husband's in the NFL, so they're very fit. And I was like, oh my gosh, can you believe this difference? I was showing her side by side. She goes, what is that picture? And I was like, that's me. That was, that was when I was at your house. And she's like, you never look like that. Like, did you do something? Did you Photoshop that photo?
Right.
And I was like, no, that was me. She goes, I never saw you like that. I
Right.
never saw you like that.
Yes.
So what's interesting is people who love you. I'm not saying my mom didn't love me, but I'm
Right.
saying like you're saying there's some other agenda or some pain or, mental illness or something that they're not happy with in
eating
themselves.
disorder, yeah.
And they project that onto you. But the people who love you and care about you
Yes.
love you and care about you regardless.
Yes.
And that's
because of how they see you.
Right.
And
And-
that is where I'll say this, that when it comes to what you just said, that's exactly right. Because I have clients who, no matter what size I am or bodybuilding or whatever, they're literally like, yeah, I mean, you're solid. You know what I mean? It doesn't matter if I'm X amount of weight or whatever.
Yes.
They're just like, yeah, I mean, you got a strong frame. That's why people in the gym are asking you what you should do because you look like you know what you're doing. They always come through, and I'm like, I'll be harder on myself, right? And I'll be like, man, especially with coming off of the bodybuilding shows and everything like that, you're like, I could have easily stuck in that and been unhappy, but lived the rest of my life like that and continued to deteriorate my health and just
Yes.
dealt with it. But look how everybody else probably would more so approve, you know what I
Sure.
mean? Or be the way that I am now and actually getting my cycle back and all these positives that have happened, sleeping through the night, awesome things like that. And not having so much anxiety, whatever. And it's just for them, they just love me for me. And that is what all I ever wanted. All I ever wanted was to be enough and not for what I could do for them, and that was something that I was that I definitely, have talked with my mom about now, and me and her are best friends. And that would not have been the case when I was growing up, that people from the outside would have said probably. So it's one of those things now where we have such a beautiful relationship, and it's not perfect, and we have our times and whatever, but she does not comment. She does not say a word about anything unless it is, you are beautiful. You are amazing. You set the example for me. You inspire me. And I do believe that we have that power as daughters to show that to our moms, because all they ever wanted really is for us to be better than what they are. You know what I mean?
Yes.
And so I think that it really is you've seen her at my events and stuff like that. And she sometimes now she'll do Move Fit, but she never would have in front because she has the same thing that you were talking about.
Sure.
So it's taken me, I've probably done hundreds of Move Fits by now. And literally just this year, she's kind of been on the side and done a couple of them.
Yeah.
So it took her seeing me, you guys, for years, right? And doing it for years to finally participate. So that's why I don't get too hung up on when people don't really get the message or they don't understand yet. I'm like, you will.
Well, sometimes it takes repetitive exposure to something.
Yes.
But it also depends where we are in life. It's even let's say you're doing something in the gym and you hear these cues and you're giving people cues and you're telling them this week after week after week about their form, and then suddenly they do it and they're like, oh, I get it. I feel that
Yes.
engagement now. And it's like that in our life, is that we know these things or we see
Right.
them or we want them.
Right.
But there's always that moment at which it just clicks.
Yeah.
And you're like, okay, I can do this now.
Right. I love that. And I think that that's so true. And I wanted to ask you, because I know you've been asking me a lot of questions, but I have watched your business grow, and I just want you to talk about that to them, to hear that process, because you're battling with the whole thing of that you don't like the way, that you look, or that you have the pressure from, your mom or whatever it might be. And now you're an adult and you have this business that's, I would say, is very successful. When would you say so you started in 1990 and it's 2024 now. So what is that? 30 years? like that's 30 years of business?
35.
35. 30 years of business. When would you say that it was successful? Because a lot of times I'm sure people will look at it now and be like, wow, she had so much success. That's overnight. And you're like, I've been doing this for 35 years.
Right. Okay. So it depends how you define success.
Okay.
Right. Because everybody has their definition of when you arrive.
Yes.
So for me, it was successful right away because I was happy. I mean, it's a lot like you and your journey. It's just a different vehicle. Right. So I felt successful that I had created something.
Yeah.
I felt successful at my first sale when I had made $10, you know.
Yeah.
I felt successful when I had enough people asking, where I was hand making them every day of the month. And that was amazing.
Yeah.
It's like, do you become successful when you go into a store, like they're sold in a store? Do you become successful when you have 100 locations selling your product?
Yeah.
Do you become successful when you reach a certain amount of sales? And I would say one of the main markers for me is, does it bring me joy? Am I treating people right?
Right.
Am I doing the right thing?
Yeah.
Am I consistent in who I am and how I show up for other people?
Yeah.
And all of those answers tell me that that's success for me. Another thing is,
Hey everyone, thank you so much for listening to the LYB podcast. If you haven't yet, please go check out the How to Love Your Body Throughout book on Amazon. This is my very first book. I am so proud of it. It is a short read. You can also get it on Kindle. So it's not a huge commitment, but it is something of a self-help book. So if you're someone who is looking for support, you're looking for tools, you're looking for just a way to feel better during this holiday season and into the new year, I definitely recommend it. I put my heart and soul into this, and this is just the start. So if you haven't yet, go on Amazon and get your first copy.
financial debt free. So it's not how much money are you making,
Right.
But a lot of people, their companies seem successful, but they've borrowed tens of millions of dollars.
100%.
And they're doing that to scale and do it fast. I grew organically, and I grew organically debt free for over 30 years.
Wow.
So never borrowed anything, just only operating on profit. And that is,
It's huge.
It's right there is the dichotomy, because I'm talking about this judgment and this body shaming that I received from my mom, but then also she was a great business coach. So she taught me, don't spend money unless you have it.
Yes.
And that seems like,
oh, no one knows how to
obvious.
do that. Yeah. They
Right.
all spend what they don't have.
Right. But it's like, well, what about this marketing? Okay, well, do you have the money to do that? Or what about, I want to buy this machine? Do you have the money to do that?
Yeah.
And so it's like, her point was, if you haven't made enough sales to have the cash to do it, then you don't need it.
Yeah.
Because you haven't made it far enough to
Right.
have the money to do it. So anyway, it was, to me,
I
debt
love
free
that.
is like a huge part of the success of my business.
Yeah.
But I mean,
And that's all you have to define is success for you. And that's what I wanted to know, because a lot of times people will say, that I'm successful, but then it's like, they don't even really know the ins and outs of what you know what I mean? Like they
Right.
just look at the overarching, whatever.
Yes.
And it's like, and I do have lavish goals, and I have, big
Yes.
dreams and stuff like that too. But taking in, like what you said, exactly right, of, having your own product, feeling that success, right? Or, being able to help one person each day. Like as cliche as it sounds, that gives me purpose. You
Yes.
know what I mean?
It does.
And so I think that you feel the same way in terms of, if your bar was something that they chose and that helped them eat their first, maybe that's the only thing they ate that day, but you know what I mean?
So I like events because I'm in the business world. I'm in a computer all the time.
Yeah.
I'm in spreadsheets. I'm in manufacturing. I'm in marketing. I'm in all these mental pursuits all day long. And for me, some people define success as, okay, when you reached your first $1 million year. Yeah, that was great, but that's not the end goal. Like more,
Right.
and it's not more. It's not more to have more.
Yeah.
It's not more so that I look successful to other
Right.
people. it's because that's reaching more people.
Yes.
So, and the only thing is like if you spend money on marketing to tell people how great you are, but all of our growth was organic through word of mouth. So it wasn't us telling people we're great, it's other
There's
people.
other people. Yeah.
So,
I love that.
yeah, I
That's
just,
huge.
I feel like the part about live events is getting to meet people. So I'm disconnected from really the public.
Yeah.
And then when you go to events and people are like, oh my gosh, you know, and
Yeah.
they're fangirling. And I'm like, it's just a product. It's just food. And they're like, no, it makes such a difference because,
Yes.
and you know, you'll hear stories about my blood sugar's low, or this is
Yep.
the only way that I balance my blood
Yeah.
sugar, or this is the only way I maintain my sanity for my kids after school,
Yes.
you know, exercises and their soccer practice and the
Right.
dance and all this thing is like if they can pass out the bars in the car while their kids are going to all these
Yeah.
after school activities, you know, or it's just we had 4 generations of people this family who had eaten grab the gold,
Yeah.
and the 91-year-old father just passed.
Oh, man.
And you know, but that was like the 4th generation of
Yeah.
people who had eaten the bars.
Wow.
But then I also have those situations where, you know, I'm doing a demo or an event,
Yeah.
and a grown woman with, you know, kids and maybe ranging from like 8 to 15 will come by and say, "Oh my gosh, I love your product." And I'm thinking she's going to tell me because of her kids, and she says, "I ate those when I was in gymnastics in 4th grade."
Oh, nice.
But
yeah.
I mean, that's the
Yeah.
staying power. So it's a very
Yeah.
competitive and saturated market. And, you know, some people will ask you, like, what are your goals? Do you want to be number one? And maybe other people do. I don't.
right.
And then they say, well, you lack ambition, you know? But again, that's the way you define success.
Yeah.
So I don't lack ambition, but I don't have to be the best, meaning the highest grossing, the most locations sold.
Right.
So the way I define
Yeah.
the best is different.
For
and
sure.
for me, it's interpersonal. I think because of being a more sensitive person
Yeah.
and having a lot of pressure at a young age. I mean, the way that I can work 15, 18 hours if I want
Yeah.
is because of the hard, tough things that my mom put me through, you know?
Right.
It was like being a Navy SEAL. She would say, oh, if you need to stay up 20 hours, you need to stay up 24 hours,
Wow,
don't
yeah.
go to sleep. Now you need to go out and garden after you've been up 24 hours. Like you
Yeah.
can't quit. You can't say no. And I was
Yeah.
like, what is this? Like, did I sign up for boot camp? And I don't
Right.
remember this. But she was like, whenever you think you've reached your limit, reset.
Yes.
Reset your mind, reset your body. There is no limit. And she was trying to show me at the time, I was just like, okay, go with it. But she was trying to say, you know, there is no limit except in your mind, and you're the only one that's going to stop you.
Yeah.
And so I've never had a belief that I couldn't do something when it comes to mental pursuits or business. I'll figure anything out. I'll
Yeah.
do anything. Not so much in physical,
Right.
like your area. I do believe I'm strong, and
Yeah.
I know, like, I remember being in a gym one time and seeing all these cheerleaders for an NFL team, and they were working out and they were doing all their exercises behind a glass. Well, it was a glass wall, so everybody
Yeah.
could see them. And these guys were all over there staring, and I used to lift pretty heavy. And just for my own
Right.
reasons, I just liked it.
Yeah.
Because I can be very strong, not very flexible, not very fast, but strong.
That's okay.
And so these guys were all, you know, looking at all these cheerleaders doing their workouts
Yeah.
and practicing. And they're like, oh, wow, I bet you couldn't do that. I didn't know these people.
Yeah.
And I said, no, but give me one of them. I'll bench press them.
Oh, that's hilarious.
You
I
know,
love that.
So it's finding your areas of strength.
Exactly. And you don't have to fit in with those people
Right.
to have value and to have purpose. And I think that's the same way of what you've talked about with like the bars and everything like that. And you know, something I do want to point out is that this is how I look at it too. When you look at defining success, for me, it's like, I've been doing this, I'm doing this, and I'm going to keep doing this, right? Like there's the consistency that's been proven to yourself, that people have shown, like, and it's been one of those things where that like, I kind of laugh about it sometimes, but I'm like, yeah, like it's just, this is going to be around for so much longer than maybe what those people who went in debt, or that they did that way, or they did it for bad intentions, or even I was talking to someone earlier about with like karma and stuff, right? That it always looks like the person on the other side has it together and whatever. And that is why I try to keep things as real as possible with things, to be like, life is not easy, but we have a choice to decide, do we want to live in that negative, live in that blame, and live in that sadness, right? Or whatever happens. So that one no, like I'm sure you've been told no several times, right? Or something didn't work out. And then being like, okay, I'm either going to pivot and adapt.
Yes.
Or I'm just going to like listen to that and then like just stop. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I never take no personally, because
Right.
we all have choice in life.
Yes.
We all have choice from every single day is about thousands of
Yeah.
choices. And in order for it to be a yes on both sides,
Yeah.
it's all about timing. It's about
Yes.
do we have the same goals, the same agenda, the same, so when someone says no, it's not personal.
Right.
And I find it so interesting when people are offended by that
Yeah.
word, because we have the power of yes and we have the power of no,
Right.
and they're both equally important.
Yeah.
You know,
Well, and I think that that's so key to like even like our relationship, because I've been like, I've probably pitched like 30,000 ideas to you over the years, and and been like, hey, I think this, and like, and sometimes I get a little manic with it, because especially when I am having a really, well, you want to pause? Okay, I was like it's just one of those things that sometimes when I have days where I'm still being like super creative, right? Or
Yes,
something, like
I
going
know
on,
those days.
Then I'm like, oh, what if we did this? And then we do this, and we do this, and like, and then I'm like, who would want to be a part of this? Who would maybe say yes? Who would maybe want to go down with it, right? And so I think of people who showed up to Find Your Fit festivals. I think about people who've been sponsors for years. I think about all these different things, and like, and you guys. Like I'll always promote you to my clients because I like the bars, and like, and I know that they will, and it's a good. Like I never promote stuff that like I don't do myself.
Of course.
And so that's where that has been such a help to them. And that some of them who are like, I've never heard of these. I've never seen these before. I'm like, now
Yes.
you're going to see them everywhere. They're in your Kroger and your Twice Daily and your whatever. Like, and so it's super cool. And even my dad, he does distributing for a manufacturer, like like Little Debbie
Yes.
and stuff. And so he goes in stores and he's like, I saw those bars, in the Kroger or wherever, right?
Yes.
And I'm like, yeah, like that's who I've worked with, and that's who's coming on the podcast. And he's like, how cool. Like he's like, how exciting,
Nice.
So the fact that him not knowing anything about really good fuel and, and like movement and stuff like that, but for him to be like, yeah, like I've seen the bars, like that's so cool. That's where it makes you, I hope that makes you feel fulfilled and successful and proud that you do reach even more than what your target market is.
yes,
You know what
for
I mean?
sure, for sure.
And that's so great. So I love that. And I've always, like I said, I'm very much a respect person in the sense of grind. And even if you weren't in all these stores, but you've been around, you've continued to keep fighting. And there's so many businesses I've seen, even in Nashville, and you probably have as well, that they, I don't want to say failed, but they quit. They stopped.
Yes.
They pivoted. They went somewhere else, right? And whether that was fitness or whatever. And so it's really beautiful to see the ones who have continue to keep, fighting for what they want. So I definitely love that.
Yes, I'm a person who can be very stubborn
Yeah.
as far as when I set my mind on something, there's just really, people can weigh in if they want, but there's,
Yeah.
Oh my goodness. Once I set my sights on something and I decide just stay out of my way. I'm not
Yeah.
saying that I'm opinionated. I'm just saying that when I know what I want, I'm going to do whatever. I didn't go to college. I'm going to do whatever it takes. I've never taken a business class.
Wow.
But when I decide that this is what I'm going to do, I'm going to figure it out.
Yeah.
Now I have my own manufacturing facility.
Amazing.
And, I have a brand, and it's, in thousands of stores all across the country. But it's like, how did I do that? And it's
Right.
not overnight. It's
No.
day by day by day by day. And I'm not as structured or organized as you by any means. Oh my gosh. I grew up without a clock. Like my mom was some sort of free spirit where she had a clock in the house on between her bed and the wall on the floor.
Okay.
That's it.
That's it.
There's no other clocks in the house.
Which honestly is so cool.
It is now.
Because
it
right,
is.
like looking back, because it's like there's times where I'll look at the clock and it does give me that like that sense of like, okay, you don't have enough time. Like, you know what I mean? Like you have to keep it. So I have to actually sit and ground myself and be like, calm down. It's 11:30. You have several hours. Just do the thing that you wanted to do.
Yes.
And like go through with that. But that came after like losing someone. And so like, and so that kind of was like the grief that came with that. So before that never used to be a thing. But anyway, but I wanted to ask you on two things on what you were saying, about the, like with your business and everything, and about being like that you're a little stubborn, right? I've been called stubborn too.
Yes.
And like, so you're married. Okay.
Yes.
How long have you been married?
Since 2015.
Okay, awesome. So tell me about that dynamic, because I don't know his job. I've only met him in person, a couple times.
And he loves you. He adores you.
Oh, well, he's so great. Like, it's so sweet. And literally just, y'all have always been so kind. And that's why I was like, is he part of the business too? Does he have his own separate job? Is he like, do you feel like you're the alpha, or is he like, what is that like?
No, it's okay. So he is a mortgage broker.
Okay.
But he is first and foremost supportive. He's a great listener.
Yeah.
He analyzes things. I have someone I can talk to, someone who will talk to me, and sometimes I don't want to hear it.
Yeah,
Often.
right.
He really stays internal with his opinions. I know that he sees things, and I know that he would love to change things, but isn't that like that with a lot of people in our life, is that it's so easy to see from the outside.
For sure.
But that person would have changed it if they could see it themselves, right?
Yeah.
So it's so easy to point out ways in which other people can change. So he withholds that kind of judgment, and I know it has to be frustrating for him when, on the outside looking in, you can see the ways for other people,
Right.
but if they can't see it themselves. So to answer that, we have, since COVID, we have been inseparable. So, and right before COVID, I lost my 3 full-time employees. I had 3 full-time employees.
Oh,
I
wow.
lost them.
Okay.
So for different reasons. One wanted to be a nanny. One went to join a startup, and one wanted to start their own business.
Okay.
So within the 90 days before COVID,
Yeah.
I lost all 3 employees. I was left. I had a new person come on who didn't know really me or the business. But I was doing the shipping, the manufacturing, the customer service,
Yeah.
placing the orders. I was doing everything by myself.
Wow.
And so I was like, people are like, I was so bored during COVID, or I was
You're like,
like,
no.
oh my gosh, all I did was work during COVID.
Right, yeah.
I was at home hardly at all, so I
Yeah.
had to constantly be in the business. But I had to ask my husband. I was like, can you come with me to work, because I may need to lift something heavy or move a pallet, or
Yeah.
I need a second set of hands to do these things.
Yeah.
It takes more than one person. And so it was really, really difficult. We had our part-time employees coming in still to make the bars,
Okay.
but I was responsible for everything physically,
Wow.
mentally, whatever. I
Yeah.
mean, I just had all these 3 jobs
Yeah.
of the full-time employees put on me, plus what I was doing. So sales took a back seat. Anyway, that was to say why we became inseparable. I forgot where I was
Yeah, no,
going
that's
with
okay,
that.
yeah.
But yeah, so we started driving into work every day.
Okay.
And then we just never stopped.
Yeah.
So because he can work from anywhere,
Yeah.
we're just literally, I drive a car like once
Yeah.
a month. And think,
Yeah.
And then it's sad. It really is sad. And I was thinking about that on the way here to see you today, is that I'm used to working in the car because he like drives me everywhere. I'm
Oh,
constantly
yes.
working from my phone.
So it's hard for you to be off of it.
Right.
Yeah.
But then it's like just to sit, like, when you drive, you just kind of zone out. You think, like when you take a walk or when
Yeah.
you're doing something without a device.
Yep.
But because I'm not responsible for driving anywhere,
Yeah.
I never stop working.
Yeah.
And that's not good. So I've been looking at that the last couple of weeks, and
I'm so glad that you are looking at that, because that's something that I talk to a lot about with my entrepreneur friends and we're all trying to do that, now and stuff. But I mean, I had to do it when my health started declining, because it was like, I got to pivot and go a different way. You know what I mean? Because it's like I have this autoimmune disorder now. And so, it affects my eye. And so it's like, all this different stuff. And I'm like, I have to change something. And I'm only working all the time. Like, and I wasn't taking breaks for myself. I was training 18 clients a day. I was getting up at 3:30 in the morning to work out and then do my fasted cardio and then work out and then train all day and then go home. And like, you know what I mean? Eating within 30 seconds, if that, inhaling food, right? So it was one of those things where, yes, you can operate in that way, but like then you lose out on like actually taking, like I take walks every day now for the challenge, 10,000 steps a day or whatever. And I'll do a little bit on my phone, but I try to put it away, listen to a podcast and just look around.
Okay.
And that has helped me a lot because that's how then I'm starting my day. And I'm not just constantly in my phone or on, trying to answer questions for everybody, but it's like that time for me. And I think as high power, entrepreneurs and women, like we have to do that, and everyone should do that. But like mainly because like we just put everyone above us or the business above us.
Oh, absolutely.
And I feel like you can relate in my world because, my business is Danny D Fitness. So that's me, right?
Yes.
And with you, even though it's not, called your name, you're still like the face of, I would say, Grab the Gold. And you know what I mean?
Yeah, well, also, I'm the most responsible person. It's like that
Right.
for any entrepreneur.
Yeah.
I am the most responsible person in any situation.
Yeah.
And I'm not just saying I'm saying responsible in that I have the responsibility for the brand to continue. I have
Yeah.
responsibility to pay the bills. I have responsibility to
Right.
be able to meet the payroll. All the decisions that I make,
Yeah.
I'm affecting all the people who work for me. I mean, when you have 15 or 20 people who are in your care,
Yeah.
and I really say that don't mean like employees, like they are in your care, they're in your hands.
Right.
It's really important every decision you make,
Yeah.
but when to say when. So I know what you mean. Like, so you have the physical health. I had physical health issues, but I just didn't know. So like my whole thing, my whole life has been ignoring my body. Don't take the time to eat. Don't take the time to drink. Don't even take the time to go to the bathroom. Just work,
Right.
work.
Yeah.
And for me, it's because I guess goal oriented, but it's the way that I quantify performance. So for me,
Yes.
growing up, like for you, it was maybe dance or competition or something
Yeah.
like that. For me, it was, oh, gosh, it comes from that, like you said, am I good enough?
Yeah.
I was never, ever, ever good enough. I could not get approval
Yes.
from my parents, or at least I really couldn't get a response out of anyone.
Yes.
And so I always tried harder and harder, but I would ignore my body, ignore my needs. I still do that. So, I mean, I still am like, okay, I need to take a 15-minute break for lunch, a 30-minute break.
Right.
I need to take a vacation. We're in November, and
Yeah.
I just took my first 3-day vacation this year.
Wow. Yeah.
But then it was only partial because I was still working every day.
Right.
So it's like the mental health part of it is so
Yes.
important. And people talk about work-life balance. I'm not even striving, Danny, for work-life balance.
Right.
I am just fighting myself.
Yeah.
I'm not fighting the world. I'm
No,
fighting
yourself.
myself
Yes.
to set boundaries with myself.
Yeah.
There's no one doing this to me.
Right.
There is no one saying you have to work this many hours.
yeah.
There is no one saying you have to do this much work or
Yeah.
you have to do these hours. Like, this is the one thing that I struggled with, and this is where my husband has been very instrumental. He said, "You're the decider."
Yes.
And I was like, "What do you mean?" He's like, "You decide.
Right.
This is your life. You decide."
Yeah.
And I was like, "Yeah, but I have to this and I have to that and I have to this and I have to." He goes, "No.
Right.
You're the decider.
Yeah.
It's your life." And I was like, wow. So I come back to that, but
Yeah.
it's myself and my own scripts, my own ideas
Yes.
of what success is or what I should be doing that so long to the point that if I'm not working, what am I supposed to be doing?
Right.
What do I do with my time? How do I have fun? I don't have a hobby, Danny.
Yeah.
I don't have a hobby.
Yeah.
I'm like, what's what's fun? I don't
Right.
know. What's
So does this sound familiar to anybody? Like, I mean, seriously, this is like what I have spoken on for years. Okay. And I've dealt with,
Tell her about this.
yeah, he's gone on to me like everyone does, and or that knows me from the from the sense of like love. But it is one of the things that like, yes, no one's telling me, hey, work these hours. No one was telling me do the show. No one was telling me, and that was where I got so disconnected even from God, because I was just so focused on me and what I have to do and this whatever, and I lost sight of that, right? And then it was like, but I have to put my clients above me and all the and whatever, and it was just like, again, you got to look at it from a lens, and this is where I've tried to do it, of, am I okay if this was it, like today, of where I left the business, where I left my interactions, how I am, whatever, would I be okay with that? And I literally think about that every night before I go to bed. Did I live the best life I could today, right? That didn't mean that I worked and trained 15 people or whatever. Didn't mean that I sold a bunch of stuff or whatever. Like, it's none of that. It's just making sure that the mundane days, and then the days where you get the sponsorship with Noble, right? That just happened. Like, you get, whatever, that every day is treated the same, in the sense of like, yes, like I did everything I was supposed to do. Like, I impacted at least one person today. You know what I mean? Had at least one conversation or whatever it might be. And so all that to say, as I know we're like closing up because we've been talking for, forever, and we have still so much to talk about. And we need to do more of this in general. But like, I just hope that you can find the grace in yourself to be like, okay, what is a hobby? Like, and I'm the same way. I love bonfires. Okay. I love movies. I
was like, bonfires. Okay, are you fire starter? Is that your nickname?
I mean, no, maybe no. It's so funny. Anyone
I was
listening
like,
to
is
this will be like,
bonfires a hobby?
but I mean, hey, I think sitting around a bonfire, just chilling by myself.
Okay, sitting
like,
around a bonfire. I thought you just were
Yeah.
like, I like making bonfires.
Oh, absolutely not. There's no solo stove out there. I'm not making nothing. And now my client did give me some flint so I could practice for Survivor, because I want to go on there. But anyway, so I can start a fire. No, hey, one day you will see me on that show.
It's been spoken now.
Yeah, it's been spoken. We've been talking about it.
Okay.
Come on. But anyway, so but it's that whole thing of like, or going to the movies. That's kind of like a fun like thing that I'll do. Just take myself out and go do that, And so, and even like with the scary stuff, like, I like fall and all that, whatever, like go into a little festival, like, but again, it's so easy to get stuck where you're at. And I get it, because I've been in it, and I've just recently tried to get out, of being, feeling like I'm kind of captive to my business, because then it's like the priorities are one more sale, one more whatever. Like this whole time, you and me both could have probably been selling. I could have been selling Fight. You could have been selling gold bars. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Or you could have been reaching out and making deals or whatever, right? But it's so important for your mental health to be able to have this time to talk with somebody who gets it, who's been in it, right? And again, in different ways. But the way that I looked at it was, when I look back in my life, I want to know that I still went and did other things. Like, yes, Dandy Fitness is great and it's impactful and it's purposeful, but by me going and showing people like that, I have to kind of set the example, honestly, of like showing them that it's okay to go out of town for 3 days and go see your best friend and go do a bunch of stuff.
See, and that's good, but I feel guilty, and
Yep,
like
and I used to too.
Like I didn't earn it, or I
Yeah.
have to explain myself, or I
Right.
have to justify
But here's what's
myself.
beautiful is this is your life. This is your business. Like, you determine what that looks
But
like.
why would you feel guilty about like
It's-
when you have employees? Like, let's just say they get 2 weeks vacation
Yes.
every year. I don't even give that to myself.
Yeah.
But why do I feel guilty and like I have to justify that I'm going to take a few days off?
Yeah.
What is that?
I think that's ingrained female, like that's been ingrained in us
Yeah.
from society, from what they've told you to do. Even with like the culture of having a business, like you got to be 24/7, do this grind, whatever. And it's a false idea of what success looks like, right? So it's like, if you don't really care, I mean, I know you care, but like if you don't really measure by what other people's standards of how your business is ran or whatever it is,
Yes.
then you have such a beautiful like opportunity to get to show yourself and like how you want to be treated, right? And like how you treat others, right? And I've put off this trip to France for years, okay? Because I'm like, just to take off that time. And finally, and I am scheduling it for 2025, so it will be happening. But it's one of those things where even with Christmas, like I'm taking, it's 10 days I'm taking off, okay? And someone was like, oh, like you're taking off for Christmas? I'm like, absolutely. Like, because I don't want to schedule anyone. I don't want to, like, if someone wants to talk to me and they're like going through some stuff and like holiday stuff, whatever, by all means, yes. Like, let's talk and like, I'll be there for people, right? I want to do that. I would actually be more inclined to do that, with followers and all that stuff and like help people in that way, and like public speaking and like doing the podcast. Like, I love those things. But in terms of like with training, like I do love my in-person training, but I do need a break from,
Of course,
from that, and even the online and stuff. So it's like, I'm going to take that reset to spend time with family, to do things that I don't get to do, right? Take myself to a movie, like whatever it might be. And like, but this is a new thing. So if you would have talked to me a year ago, I would have been like, no. Like, even like this Saturday, I'm going to go, I think, whatever it's called, skeet shooting or like clay shooting, you know what I'm talking about? Yeah. I don't know. I got one good eye. Apparently that's all you need. So like, it's fine.
Just make sure you close the right one or the left one, whichever one it is.
It might be backwards. So I might be, everybody runs. So exactly. So who knows? But you know what I mean? Though, like I would have never, I'd be like, nope, I got to train clients. Like I'm trying to, like, I would have been like, I have to train clients Saturday. Nope. Can't do it. Can't maneuver. Nope. Got to train them. And then I can't do anything for the rest of the day. No. You know what I mean?
Yes.
Like, so now I'm getting to the point where I'm like, I'm taking Saturdays back for myself when I can, right? Like, and like going on the little trips and whatever. But you know what, how I'm able to do that? I hired an assistant. She helps handle things. I just have support, right? I have someone doing my podcast for me, not me having to edit and sit here and take time, right? Yes. I have a CPA now who he handles my stuff for me, right? I also am now getting I'm building this team of people, and it might not look with the type of team that people would have thought, right? Like a bunch of trainers under me and like whatever. Okay. But I'm building a team that's helping me just be able to operate. And by allowing me that time to sit here and be able to do a podcast or to be able to not worry about my phone and someone, whatever, doing something like Anna will handle it. Or, you know what I mean? Like that is what gives me freedom and confidence. And I think that that's the word that keeps like coming into my head about like confidence for you, right? Like step into your power, step into your confidence and be like, literally, it's all going to be okay. Like if you take that day or you take whatever.
I know that. And I have a great team and they're like, Danny, go take care of yourself. Go have a vacation. Like we got this. But it's me allowing myself permission.
But I think that it's with anything, right? If you start doing it, like the first time you take it off, you're like, whoa, I feel like not good about this. But the second time you take it off, you might feel a little bit better. The third time you take it off, like meet me in France, we'll go have some croissants, like we'll go ride bikes, you know what I mean? Like you're gonna be like, this is a vibe. Like, okay, I'm coming back in a week. Like, like you see what I mean though?
Yes.
And so I love that your husband can do that for you. And I love that he can like help in that way, kind of keep you on that to be like, hey, like, let's just even like strive to like do a little bit, you know what I mean? Like,
he's very good at setting perspectives.
Yes. And that's awesome to have that. And so, I will say that again, your drive, your determination, all of it is amazing and incredible. And the goals that you have set for yourself are admirable. But I will say, if you can find that time for you and to just let go of what they've, you know what I mean? That these things have been imprinted in you and stuff like that. Like because the reason I say that is because it's not telling you what to do. I've had to do it myself. And because I've had to do it myself, I'm just telling you from this side of it, it's so much better. And I wish I would have done it earlier. Yeah. Because then maybe, it can't go back, right? But like maybe I wouldn't be in the health issues I'm in right now. Or maybe I wouldn't have dealt with certain things, right? But again, perspective. Now I look at things differently. And I don't get stuck in the ego of Nashville. I don't get stuck in the training and I have to be this, and I got to be the best of, and none of that. I do what I want, when I want, how I want, and where I want, right? And like that has been such a blessing from God. And that is like how I would hope that all of my entrepreneur friends, all of the people that I admire can also be able to like get in that freedom. You know what I mean?
Yeah. It's again about the deferment, not like if we're saying, oh, our body, when we look like this, when we've achieved this, we can wear this, we can do this. Right. It's really in the deciding and scheduling it because, you can always say, oh, I'm going to do that when this circumstance is perfect, or I'm going to do this when that comes along. And
it never will be perfect, you guys. Like everyone listening, like there's never that time that's going to come. Like,
Oh, people
do it
say
now.
I'll start a business when, or I'll have a baby when,
Yes.
or, if you want to do it, do it.
Yeah.
I read something the other day that said, if it's a good idea, do it today.
Yeah. I love that. Yeah. Go and find some ingredients in your pantry and just whip up some amazing Craft the Gold bars. Like, and also we'll talk about this after we end, but I definitely want to know more about your manufacturing, and all that. Like, that would be great. But yeah, I mean, I ask everyone this, as we're closing out, I ask everyone, what is something that you love about your body? And I think I interviewed you as well at the expo and asked you this. And I know that was a hard moment. We kind of had some, I think you had a little bit of.
Oh, I had no idea what to say when you asked me that. And I still don't remember what I said. Yeah, I remember when you asked me, I was like, I didn't want to say nothing. I was really struggling to find something. But I do appreciate the strength I have. Like, I can carry some stuff. I can lift some stuff. I can, I mean, that's one thing.
Yeah.
That's
And that's great. And that's awesome. And it doesn't have to be, a specific part of your body. Everyone says something different because it's what you view and what you think, And I hope that this is something that I'll leave everyone with. But when I have times of doubt or when I think about past trauma, right, and the verbal abuse or any of the things, right, body shaming, or if someone says a dumb comment online or whatever, right, I pray that God gives me the insight to see myself how he sees me. And when I do that, it changes everything. Because then I'm like, there's nothing, what are we talking about? You know what I mean?
Yes.
And it really grounds me. And so, and I tell this I feel this to my mom, I feel this to my friends who also, are waiting to kind of live their life, or they don't feel like they're that great in their bodies. And when they say these things, and I say to them, I'm like, I wish that you could see yourself the way that I view you. And I do think that sometimes, even though we've gone through these situations and these hardships, until you decide to let go of that and be like, I'm going to be my best, and by being my best, I'm going to find something I love about myself each day, or because you have so many great qualities, like mentally, right? We've talked about that this whole podcast. Like, you're brilliant. Like, the other part of it is just it's just a little extra. It's just the bonus. You know what I mean? It's the, oh man, like, I'm strong and look at these legs today. You know what I mean? Like,
it's going to take me a while to get to that sassy Danny D part, but
right.
I can only hope to grow up and be like you.
You're so sweet. I appreciate you so much. And again, we're going to have you come back on, because I know we could talk for hours about just everything.
Oh, we could get into mental health. We could get into all kinds of things.
There's so many layers.
There's so many things.
But I just appreciate you so much, Danielle. And thank you so much for coming on the Love Your Life podcast. And you always know if you ever need anything or, anything, I'm always here. So
thank you.
Appreciate it.
And everybody should love their body.
Yes, that's exactly right. All right. Until next time, you guys.